One driving factor behind the ongoing farmer protests around Delhi past month is the fear of corporate takeover of farmers' interests. That corporatization would take hold of the innocent village peasant, and the capricious private capital would impoverish the poor farmer further by maximizing pursuit of profits. But what are the facts on the ground? What is the history of corporate farming in India and the global experience? Does the picture look as dark as it is painted by some vested interests? Let's take a deep dive on the issue in this edition of our commentary.
Contract farming, a tie-up between the farm and the firm, has been present in India from as early as the 19th century. With private British companies getting into coffee and tea plantations in the northeast and south of India in 1850s and 1860s. Early 20th century saw companies like the ITC getting into contracts to produce tobacco with the farmers of Andhra Pradesh. 1960s saw some private players getting into the seeds business, which involved leasing agri-lands dedicated to seed farming. Private sector companies got into agri-businesses through the 1970s as well, without much enabling policy ecosystem.
जितना हमारे देश में एग्रीकल्चर पर प्राइवेट सेक्टर द्वारा निवेश किया जाना चाहिए था, दुर्भाग्य से उतना नहीं हुआ। इस सेक्टर को प्राइवेट सेक्टर द्वारा उतना एक्सप्लोर ही नहीं किया गया। हमारे यहां कोल्ड स्टोरेज की समस्याएं रही है। बिना प्राइवेट सेक्टर के सपोर्ट के सप्लाई चेन बहुत सीमित दायरे में काम करती रही है। फर्टिलाइजर की किल्लत होते आपने भी देखा है। इसका कितना इंपोर्ट भारत करता है, आप भी जानते हैं। एग्रीकल्चर सेक्टर की ऐसी कितनी ही चुनौतियों के समाधान के लिए केंद्र सरकार निरंतर काम कर रही है, लेकिन इसमें आपके इंटरेस्ट और आपके इन्वेस्टमेंट दोनों की आवश्यकता है। मैं मानता हूं कि एग्रीकल्चर से जुड़ी कई कंपनियां अच्छा काम कर रही हैं, लेकिन सिर्फ उतना ही काफी नहीं है। फसलें उगाने वाले किसानों को, फल सब्जियां उगाने वाले किसानों को जितना आधुनिक टेक्नोलॉजी का, आधुनिक व्यापार और उद्योग के तौर तरीके का जितना सपोर्ट मिलेगा, उनकी जरूरतों को देखते हुए जितना हम इन्वेस्ट करेंगे, उतना ही हमारे देश के किसानों का, फसलों का नुकसान कम होगा, उतनी ही उनकी आय बढ़ेगी।
In late 1980s, PepsiCo and HLL famously contracted for tomato farming in Punjab and Himachal. It is documented that the productivity of the crop went up from about 7.5 tons per acre to 20 tons. The American MNC later did the same with potatoes for its brand of chips. From Uttar Pradesh to Gujarat to Maharashtra. Parallelly, the cooperative sector flourished in India, incorporating elements of contract farming. Small farmers would collectively own a cooperative, which would bring capital and technology to improve yields. Milk and sugar are cases in point. Operation Flood and the success of India's milk production story is a legend in the annals of agriculture studies around the world.
Farmers took over the agriculture produce whole supply chain, and then later on to compete with them, lot of private entrepreneurs, private dairies also came, and everybody competed in the free this agriculture produce. If today I tell you milk is India's largest crop, 8 lakh crore per annum. The value is more than the paddy, wheat and pulses put together. And its contribution to GDP is growing every year. It is around 4.5%. Whereas the contribution of agriculture crop to the national GDP and agricultural GDP is declining day after day. Out of this 8 lakh crore, 2.2 lakh crore is in the organized sector. 60% with the cooperative, 40% with the private or corporates, and everybody is competing.
India produced about 20 million metric tons of milk in the 1950s, and the commodity was pretty much rationed even in major urban centers. Come the White Revolution through 1970s, led by the cooperatives model of Amul, and India stands as the largest milk producing nation in the world at about 160 to 170 million metric tons today. The success story would not have been possible without a dose of technology, almost military-man professionalism of Varghese Kurian, and the farmers' collectivism to tide over the fractured supply chain. More importantly, it underscored that we as a nation could do it.
In yet another example of the farmers showing grassroots courage, from being moderately self-sufficient in the area of cotton production, India has become a net exporter of cotton, with the spin-off effects on farm to fashion textiles industry. Before 2003, much of the cotton variety produced in the country was susceptible to pests, with regular stories of farmer suicides. Came the genetically modified BT cotton, and the bad days were behind us. Today, with 95% cotton in the country belonging to the pest-resistant variety, cotton farmers have made a small fortune. Exports peaked to about $10 billion in 2014-15 and are expected to record highs this year on the back of a surge in global demand. This happened with some astute handling by farmer leaders of all political persuasions. Unfortunately, something not shown since for any other crop except for BT brinjal when it comes to genetically modified crops.
As things stand today, contract farming is legal in a majority of states in India, adopted by farmers for a wide variety of crops and across regions. The amended APMC Act, even as it stood before the latest reforms, allowed a legal framework for the private sector to go directly to the farmers. Under UPA, fruits and vegetables were effectively taken out of the regulated APMC system. Simply put, a company could enter into a contract with a farmer or a group of farmers, provide them technological and capital inputs, and demand a certain quality of produce. The farmer cuts through the rigmarole of finding transport, middlemen, and markets, even if for the same amount of profit on the crop. But if only things were that simple.
Despite proof to the contrary, the ongoing protests are attempting to create a fear psychosis in the minds of the farmers. Listen to this.
यूएसएन रीजन है वो ये चाहता है कि हमको एक इस तरह दुनिया में एक देश चाहिए जहाँ की जनसंख्या ज़्यादा हो और यहाँ पे वो इंडस्ट्रीज लगाना चाहते हैं ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा यहाँ पे इंडस्ट्रीज लगे उसके लिए सस्ती लेबर यहाँ पे मिले। लेबर एक्ट में बदलाव करा है भारत सरकार ने। सस्ती लेबर मिलेगी कहाँ से? वो मिलेगी कृषि क्षेत्र से। कृषि को डिस्टर्ब करोगे, हलचल करोगे तो वहाँ से लेबर निकलेगी। अभी उनका टारगेट ये है कि अभी करीब 67% लोग कृषि पर निर्भर हैं, उसमें से अभी 40% लोगों को वे वहाँ से कृषि क्षेत्र से हटाना चाहते हैं। इस तरह के कानून जाके जैसे ये बिल लेकर आए हैं, इन बिलों में भी वही प्रावधान है। जब 40% लोग एग्रीकल्चर से हट जाएंगे तो उनको रोजगार चाहिएगा, उन्हें रोजगार चाहिएगा तो यहाँ पे फैक्ट्री आओगे, उनको रोजगार देंगे। लॉ एक्ट में संशोधन हो ही गया, जो लेबर एक्ट है उसमें संशोधन हो गया। यहाँ पे किसान मजदूर बन जाएगा, जमीन ने वो कॉन्ट्रैक्ट पे दे देगा, कुछ जमीन बैंकों में चले जाएगी, कुछ बिक जाएगी, क्योंकि फसलों के रेट नहीं मिलेंगे तो जमीन नहीं बिकेगी। बड़ी बड़ी इंडस्ट्रीज यहाँ पे लगेगी। कॉन्ट्रैक्ट फार्मिंग के माध्यम से लोग शहरों में रहना शुरू हो जाएंगे, गांव खाली होंगे, लोग खेती करना भूल जाएंगे और उनका 40, 50, 100 साल का ये टारगेट है कि हम यहाँ की ज़मीन को, जो उर्वरक पूरी ज़मीन है, इसको बंजर बनाने का उनका एक बड़ा प्लान है। वो 1 महीने में किसी भी देश की अर्थव्यवस्था को बिगाड़ सकता है। उस तरह की बड़ी बड़ी कंपनियाँ आ रही। तो हमको ये है कि हम सरकार का किसानी पे, यहाँ के देश पे, यहाँ की जनता पे कोई ध्यान नहीं है। वे बड़ी बड़ी मल्टीनेशनल कंपनियों के हाथों में देश को बेचना चाहते हैं। अभी नया एक और आएगा जो और कंपनी है वे इसलिए यहाँ पे वे करवाना चाहती है। अभी तो आने वाला टाइम पे जो रेहड़ी पटरी पर लोग अपना काम करते थे उनके लिए भी एक्ट आ रहा और उससे 4.5 करोड़ लोग हमारे प्रभावित होंगे।
Conspiracy theories like this abound, that the West is out to destroy our agriculture, that our lands would turn fallow with fertilizer overuse, that rampant joblessness would result from the use of technology. While discounting the outlandish ones, it is important the experts and the government address the concerns on merits. Any technological churn in any sector brings with it the possibility of making jobs redundant. Agriculture cannot be immune to the principle. An infusion of technology might lead to a certain spike in rural joblessness. Even otherwise, while agriculture's share in the GDP is just about 15% now, it still supports an unsustainable population pressure of about 50% on it. While on the one hand, creating more manufacturing jobs might be an imperative, most of the redundant workforce from the fields might not have the skill set to cope with the requirements. As suggested by agri-expert Ashok Gulati in one of his papers, giving a fillip to agri-food processing sector and absorbing the rural workforce there might be a good intermediate solution, and these reforms pave the way for that.
आज ग्रामीण क्षेत्र में एग्रो बेज इंडस्ट्री के लिए बहुत बड़ा स्कोप है। पहले की नीतियां जो भी रही हो, लेकिन आज की पॉलिसीज ग्रामीण कृषि आधारित अर्थव्यवस्था विकसित करने के लिए बहुत अनुकूल है। नीति से और नियत से सरकार पूरी तरह किसानों का हित करने के लिए प्रतिबद्ध है। साथियों, एग्रीकल्चर के साथ ही सर्विस सेक्टर हो, मैन्युफैक्चरिंग हो, सोशल सेक्टर हो, इसमें हम एक दूसरे को कॉम्प्लीमेंट कैसे करें, इस पर हमें पूरी एनर्जी लगानी है।
As per a Niti Aayog study, as much as 27% of fruits and vegetables produced in the country go waste due to transportation and storage deficiencies. What is wrong if private capital fills this space quickly by removing regulatory and policy bottlenecks, which is aimed to do reforms?
Now, coming about this apprehension of corporate taking on the farms and they're monopolizing the system, let me tell you, up to some extent, farmers may be right. Because till now, we have seen whichever crop corporates have started buying from the farmers, they have not started giving the benefit of value addition to the farmers. In cooperatives, which is owned by the farmers, whatever value addition benefit, it is going back to the farmer. So what I feel the solution is that, no doubt, I am fully in favor, the farmer should have freedom to sell his produce to anybody at any price, anywhere in India. If I give example, in case of crops, there are around more than 7,000 APMC. But you know how many mandis are there in milk? More than 2 lakh. Each village is a mandi. In each village, 2 or 3, whether cooperatives or private corporates, are fighting, competing with each other to buy that 1 liter of milk by offering best price. So I feel there should not be any monopolistic approach. Nobody should have a monopoly to buy the farm produce at his price. There should be competition, and competition will bring the efficiency in this farm produce supply chain, and ultimate benefit will go to the farmer.
What specific changes we should be looking at through this window of private capital participation? For one, there is huge scope of collaboration with the government on educating farmers. the use of inorganic fertilizers is still below global safest standards, impacting productivity. For example, against 11 tons per hectare in the United States, productivity in India is only about 2.5 tons per hectare for a crop like maize. Improved technology has not reached a majority of farmers is evident from the fact that more than one crop is grown on less than half of India's arable land. And those who speak of small size of farmland forget India performs poorer than China despite having more arable land and more land area under irrigation. China's total value of agriculture produce is 3 times of India at $1.2 trillion against ours about $400 billion as per 2018 figures. Essentially, China is extracting more from its land resources on the back of better use of capital and technology.
Let's come to some conclusions. India stopped being a food deficit country some 4 decades ago. Those bad days are not coming again. We are going to remain a surplus food economy. The Modi government reforms are in the nick of time to infuse private capital in the surplus part of the system, even as government support continues through its various intervention mechanisms like the Universal PDS, Food Security Act, Fasal Bima Yojana, Direct Benefits Transfer, and the Income Support Scheme.
There should be competition, and government should invest money in building infrastructure in villages for farmers-owned organization. I feel if 1 or 2 efficient farmers or organizations are there in the various geographies of India, corporates or the private fellow will not be able to exploit farmers by giving them lower price or taking over their land, what a fear people have got. So ultimately I can say, let us welcome freedom to the farmers. Farmers should be free to sell their produce to anybody. But like farmers' fear is that one is MSP, and second is farmers-owned organization should enter in this field of buying and selling.
With all the might of the governments at centre and the states, the investment to GDP ratio for agri sector remains at about 14%. A huge 80% of investment in agriculture comes from farmers themselves. Imagine, private sector corporate investment stands at a paltry 2.5% of the total agri economy in the country. In figures available from 2016-17, of the total corporate investments of about 20 lakh crore rupees in the economy, a mere 8,000 crores came to agriculture.
It is a travesty that for an essentially rural culture that India remains, farmers have not earned well enough since independence. Urban family incomes are as much as 5 times higher than rural homes, from roughly being equal at the time the British left. Something is surely amiss, thus adding that extra sheen to Modi government's project to double the farmers' income. There is a miracle waiting to happen if we unlock the regulatory bottlenecks and let these reforms through. Let's not miss the bus.